Well, in less than 24 hours from now, it's hopefully going to be a successful blast off for Shubhanshu Shukla and the Crew Dragon crew on their way to the International Space Station. When the mission does blast off, Group Captain Shukla is going to be the first Indian in 41 years to be in space. And that's an extraordinary achievement. Now, the latest that we have in terms of the chances of the mission blasting off tomorrow, remember, it was supposed to take place today, but it was delayed because of weather and other reasons. You've got that on your screens. Falcon 9 and Dragon at sunrise ahead of tomorrow's launch of Axiom Space's AX-4 mission. The weather is 85% favorable for liftoff, with teams continuing to monitor high winds in the ascent corridor. All right, so a good chance that it's going to take place at about 5:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. So we're going to be broadcasting all of that live from 3 p.m. onwards. 20 hours and 7 minutes approximately to go. We're joined by a very special panel of guests. Terry Wirtz, former NASA astronaut and a former F-16 pilot, somebody who's watching on as we are, on this mission. Professor Duvuri Subramaniam is at the Department of Aerospace Engineering at the Indian Institute of Science and has a very interesting background with Shubanshu Shukla, the Indian astronauts. Why? I'm going to tell you this. He taught them. The four astronauts were learned or studied at the Indian Institute of Science. They ultimately went on to be a part of the MTech program. This is because for the Indian crewed mission, the Gaganyaan mission, which of course is the larger mission that's still a couple of years away, the four Indian astronauts shortlisted were roped in. They roped in the Indian Institute of Science to actually train them in aerodynamics, rocket propulsion, and a lot of other scary things. But then finally, it's great to see Duvuri over here. He just met Shubhanshu Shukla a couple of days back. And my friend Pallav Bagla, who's been tracking this relentlessly for days on end. Terry Wirtz, you know this better than anybody else. The weather, they say, is 85% favorable. What exactly does that mean? And when they say that they're looking out for winds, in the upper atmosphere, again, what does that mean? What are the chances of this mission blasting off successfully tomorrow?
Well, thanks for having me on. On my first space flight on the Space Shuttle Endeavour, we had some clouds and my first launch was scrubbed, so I had to wait to do it again. So it's Florida, it's summertime, you never know. The good thing is it's in the morning, so usually the weather's better in the morning. But as the rocket goes up, the winds can actually affect it a lot. Just like an airliner flying across the ocean has headwinds or tailwinds, rockets deal with the same thing. So if there's too much wind shear, they won't launch, but it sounds like they'll probably be good. But it's Florida, you never know. They're either going to launch or they'll not, and they'll wait until it's safe.
Pallav, there were some technical issues as well, not just the weather, which resulted in the mission yesterday being delayed. What were some of those technical reasons?
Well, the update I have from Axiom is that they are going ahead with the launch. They are waiting for L-8 hours for the weather update to make that final call. But yes, SpaceX in the early morning India time press conference pointed out that there was a liquid oxygen leak on the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. And there were thruster issues on the Falcon 9 rocket. It's a human-rated vehicle. It has had 10 successful launches. But on the launch pad, to have a liquid oxygen leak, and which they are trying to fix on the launch pad itself, is something which is, I'm not very familiar with the Falcon 9 systems, but people in India are a little surprised that a human-rated launch vehicle is being fixed at the launch pad. So that is one issue, and weather already remains an issue. We already had a Falcon 9 rocket launch today morning, and it has been successful. So what is the issue of the weather? Why was this particular launch delayed? There is some issue and some mystery around it. It seems very strange because early morning the Falcon 9 today lifted off and successfully placed the Starlink satellites in orbit. And is this liquid oxygen leak which is bothering the team? I'm sure our NASA astronaut who's had some experience with these SpaceX and others would be able to answer, or our aerospace expert
In fact, let me put that across to Terry Wirtz. A leak at this stage of liquid oxygen sounds quite serious. Is there a fix for something like this, or do you believe that it's just something relatively minor?
Well, I'll let SpaceX answer the specifics. I'm not involved
Sure.
with them dealing with this specifically. I can say that rockets have a lot of propellant tanks. There's the fuel, there's the oxidizer, there's other helium and nitrogen tanks. So there's a lot of potential leaks in every rocket that launches. So I'll let them handle the specifics. But to have some type of leak that you have to deal with is not uncommon. And SpaceX is legendary for fixing things right at the launch pad. That's how they do business. So, but again, I'll let them answer those specific questions.
Professor Subramaniam, tell us a little bit about Shubhanshu Shukla. You met him recently as well. Could you tell us a little bit about Shubhanshu? What we know him to be an extremely bright man. He's got a sense of humor. That's what his mission commander said. Besides that, what can you tell us about him?
Hi, Vishnu. Thanks for having me on. So I did get a chance to sit down and have a chat with Shuks yesterday. That was yesterday here, local time. He's in quarantine, so we had to maintain distance. Axiom had set up an outdoor sort of a place for us to chat, and he was in good spirits. He's a jolly good fellow, very good sense of humor, very positive, very optimistic. So he reminisced about his path to this point, right? And starting from his rookie days with the Indian Air Force, and then as a test pilot, and then the Gaganyaan program, the intense training that they did in Russia, the ground training in Bengaluru with ISRO, which me and a few of my colleagues were part of as ground instructors for some of their courses. And then finally the training here for 10 months with Axiom, SpaceX, and NASA. So for him, it's been a very exciting journey. And he's now patiently waiting for the final countdown in good spirits and ready to reach the stars.
Terry Wirtz, the mission to the space station is largely automated. That said, how have the crew members trained extensively over almost a year to deal with any emergencies or situations when they need to work by themselves, moving beyond the automation?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I am excited for Shooks. We both had the same path of being a fighter pilot and then test pilot, so I know how he feels and what he's going through. The SpaceX capsule is automated, like you said. There's a few things. If the crew understands that the rocket is going in the wrong direction, there is some intervention they can do to change that. Things like a fire you have to deal with, or oxygen, air leaks, those types of emergencies you have to deal with. You also have to be trained for emergencies on the space shuttle or on the space station once they get to the station. And this is an exciting time for India to have its first astronaut on the space station. I'd like to say really briefly, I was good friends with Kalpana Chawla. She was the Indian American astronaut on Columbia. So that accident unfortunately happened in 2003, and she was killed. But she was an amazing, wonderful human being, and I know that Shucks is going to follow in her tradition. So I know this is a great day for India to see the next Indian astronaut in space.
No, it is absolutely, and thank you so much for telling us about that. It's something I wasn't aware of, that you knew Kalpana Chawla, who is very much a hero in India as well. We've got huge aspirations about space and the Indian Space Research Organization and the mission tomorrow. And of course, the larger mission would be our own manned spaceflight or crewed spaceflight. That's a couple of years away, Gaganyaan. And of course, Shuks is part of that team. But that's wonderful to hear. What would happen, Terry Wirtz, once they do dock with the space station? What would some of the missions inside be?
Well, the first thing that'll happen when they open the hatch, everybody will get hugs, they'll welcome them on board, and then they're going to be amazed at, we've been in this little capsule for 30 hours, roughly is the phasing time they have, and then they're going to be in this massive, huge spaceship. So just getting used to moving around with your hands, floating is really tough to do. Hopefully somebody will grab them and drag them down to the cupola and let them look out the window. It's this amazing 7-windowed module. But then they're going to have to get to work. And the first couple days for me, and I think for pretty much every astronaut, is very disorienting. You feel, yeah, I had a raging headache. I had the worst headache I've ever had. So it takes a few days to get used to it. But unfortunately, they're up there to do work, so they're going to have to get busy. The ISRO has a lot of biology experiments. They're going to deal with seeds, bacteria, microalgae. So there's a lot of work that Shooks and the other astronauts are going to be doing. And then they're only there for roughly 2 weeks, so they'll be coming back to Earth pretty quickly. It's going to go by in a flash.
Professor Subramaniam, in terms of the aerospace engineering that you trained the Gaganyaan crew on, including Shooks on, could you tell us about his specific area of interest? Was it rocketry, aerodynamics? What specifically did you work with him on?
Okay, see, Shooks and all the three other astronauts, all the four astronauts, as part of their ground training program, ISRO had wanted them to do basic courses in aerodynamics, rocket propulsions, all of this stuff, right? And given that all of them are test pilots, so given the test pilot background, they sort of knew most of this stuff already, but we are sort of getting some of the basic theory drilled in these courses. So in terms of Shubanshu's specific interests, I think one of the sort of very forward-looking, so he's right now for his MTech research at IISc, he's working on habitats, human habitats in space. So that is, I suppose, an area of great interest to him specifically. And sort of on a slightly different note, if I can address what Pallav said a little while ago about there being a Falcon 9 launch today, earlier this morning, but the weather, that was the Starlink satellites. Some of the Starlink satellites went up to space.
Yep.
So my guess is, again, I don't have any official details on this, but my guess is that Axiom 4, being a human-rated mission, has much tighter tolerances and safety margins as compared to something that is uncrewed. So even in terms of low altitude winds, the thresholds are lower for crewed missions as opposed to uncrewed missions. So I'm guessing that's one of the reasons why the Starlink satellites could go up today, but not the Axiom 4 mission. But we are hopeful that in less than 24 hours, these guys will be in orbit.
Pallav, how long does it take for them to actually dock with the space station? It takes a couple of days, right?
Oh, it's as of now. When we got the last update after launch, it was to be a 28-hour ride in space before they docked. Right now, we have no update from Axiom Space onto the details of what would happen if there is a 5:30 p.m. India time launch. So that is also a bit of a worry that we don't have those details. But let us hope that in the press conference, which was addressed early morning India time, SpaceX was sure that they would be able to fix all the problems in 24 hours. And that should be all right. Let us hope so. And hopefully they should dock in 28 hours at the International Space Station. From reaching near the International Space Station to docking it takes some time. So that's how it will be. But right now, the issue is whether the liftoff happens on time and the liftoff happens safely, and that Group Captain Shukla becomes the second Indian astronaut. We all in India are praying, 1.4 billion Indians are praying for the success of this mission. A lot rides on it, but end of the day, it's a commercial mission, and we should not forget that. India has bought a seat for 550 crores on this particular mission, and safety has to be paramount for India's own astronaut, who is a gifted test pilot of India.
And let's not forget about the three other crew members either. They are exceptionally talented from various countries. Peggy Whitson, who is the commander of the mission, is an extraordinary astronaut herself. I don't think there's any woman who's done more spacewalks than her. And so she commands Shubhanshu Shukla and the others on this mission, and it should be exciting times ahead. I'd like to thank all of you very much for being with us. We're going to be tracking this very closely tomorrow on NDTV from 3 p.m. onwards. In the meanwhile, we have this report on Group Captain Shubanshu Shukla.
3, 2, 1, 0. Wing Commander Shubanshu Shukla.
This was the first time we saw Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, now the poster boy of India's growing space ambitions. Born in October 1985 in Lucknow, Shubhanshu Shukla's journey to the stars began in the classrooms, where he was inspired by the heroics of Indian soldiers during the Kargil War. Determined to serve his country, Shukla cleared the UPSC National Defence Academy examination and earned a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science from the National Defence Academy in 2004. Commissioned into the Indian Air Force's fighter stream in June 2006, Shukla quickly distinguished himself as a combat leader and test pilot. With over 2,000 hours of flight experience across aircraft like the Su-30 MKI, MiG-21, MiG-29, Jaguar, Hawk, Dornier, and AN-32, among others. In 2019, Shubhanshu was shortlisted by the Institute of Aerospace Medicine for ISRO's Astronaut Training Group. In 2024, Prime Minister Modi officially announced his name as one of India's 4 astronaut designates for the Gaganyaan mission, marking a new chapter in India's space ambition. Now as pilot of the historic Axiom Mission 4, Shukla is set to become the first Indian government-backed astronaut to visit the International Space Station in 41 years, following the footsteps of Rakesh Sharma.
Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, this is your first sortie into space. How confident are you of pulling it off? And also, how confident are you about having a happy landing or a happy splashdown?
Namaskar, Baglaji. Thank you for your question. You're always humorous, and that lights us up here back in Florida. Yes, this is my first sortie to space, and the past 1 year we have been training rigorously for this mission itself, and I can say that we have experienced a lot of different aspects or facets of this mission. Theoretical studies, doing simulator training, and as Tibor was mentioning, undergoing various protocols of underwater survival and emergency egress. And having done these activities over the past few months repeatedly again and again, I feel very confident, not just in my ability, but in the ability of this team. And yes, there was a time when happy landing was appropriate for whenever I landed the aircraft, but I have switched over to happy splashdowns now. So I would, willingly accept that.
Shubhanshu Shukla's journey from Lucknow to the International Space Station represents the dreams of a nation reaching for the stars. Pallav Bagla's report for
Everybody
NDTV.
comfortable with that? Just remember,